Ethan Carter was a man whose name was synonymous with power, wealth, and ambition. A self-made billionaire, he was the architect of an empire built on years of unrelenting drive and sacrifice. His life was a testament to the rewards of determination and a cautionary tale about the isolation that comes with success. Ethan owned everything money could buy: private jets, sprawling estates, and a portfolio of ventures spanned the globe. Yet, despite his towering achievements, his trust in humanity had eroded to almost nothing. For Ethan, people weren't allies or friends. They were risks to be calculated or tools to be used. Years of betrayal, deceit, and business rivalries had left Ethan with a hardened heart. He had learned to view the world skeptically, convinced everyone had a price. While his instincts had served him well in business, they came at a personal cost. Ethan's circle of acquaintances was vast, but his circle of trust was empty. The loneliness of his existence was a heavy burden, one that wealth could not alleviate. The cracks in Ethan's stoic facade had recently begun to show. A gnawing sense of dissatisfaction crept into his life. His days were filled with boardroom meetings and lavish parties, but none of it felt meaningful anymore. Late at night, in his penthouse's silence, he often wondered if honesty, kindness, and genuine human connection were relics of a bygone era. Could such virtues still exist in a world he believed was ruled by greed and self-interest? One evening, as he sat in his grand, minimalist living room overlooking the city skyline, a peculiar thought entered his mind. Perhaps he had been too quick to judge the world. Maybe some people still embodied the values he had long dismissed as naive. But how could he know? How could he distinguish authenticity from pretense? The idea intrigued him, and Ethan was curious for the first time in years. Driven by this inner conflict, Ethan made a decision that would alter the course of his life. He would test the world, one person at a time, starting with a stranger who had no reason to impress him. It wasn't about proving himself right or wrong, but rediscovering the truths he had buried beneath years of cynicism. And so, one chilly evening, Ethan found himself driving far from the polished streets of downtown to a quiet, unassuming diner on the city's edge. It was a place he hadn't set foot in for decades, the kind of place he might have visited in his youth, back when dreams were his only currency. The diner's neon sign flickered faintly, its charm rooted in simplicity and nostalgia. Stepping inside, Ethan was greeted by the comforting hum of casual conversations and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. This was a world far removed from his own, one that might still hold the honesty he sought. He chose a booth in the corner, away from prying eyes, and waited. Moments later, a waitress approached him. She was young, with a warm, effortless smile and a name tag that read Sophia. Her eyes carried a kindness that made Ethan pause. He watched her move between tables, treating each customer with the same care and attention, whether regulars or first-time visitors. She was a picture of unassuming grace, and Ethan felt she might be the perfect subject for his test for reasons he couldn't quite explain. What began as a passing thought had now turned into a plan. Ethan didn't know what he would find in this tiny diner, but he felt sure of one thing. He was about to uncover something far more valuable than any deal he had ever struck. Ethan observed Sophia closely, each interaction revealing something new about her character. She crept, balancing plates of food and cups of coffee with practiced ease. Yet, it wasn't her skill that struck him. It was her demeanor. There was no trace of forced politeness, no hollow cheerfulness that might hint at someone merely doing a job. She seemed to genuinely enjoy serving others, as though each customer's smile was a small victory in her day. Ethan's meal arrived, a simple plate of eggs, toast, and coffee. It was the kind of meal he hadn't had in years, stripped of the extravagance of his usual chef-prepared dishes. He thanked Sophia as she set the plate down, and she responded, "Enjoy, sir. Let me know if you need anything." The warmth in her voice wasn't exaggerated. It felt real. As he ate, Ethan found himself watching her more intently. She chatted with an elderly couple about their grandchildren, offered a tired truck driver a free refill of his coffee, and took the time to kneel beside a small child who had spilled their drink, reassuring them with a smile. It was as though Sophia brought light into the room, no matter how dim the diner's flickering neon sign might be. But Ethan wasn't ready to take her actions at face value. People could act kind, especially when there was something to gain. He decided to test her. When Sophia came to clear his empty plate, Ethan excused himself. "I'll be right back," he said casually, leaving his wallet on the table as he walked toward the restroom. It was no ordinary wallet. A slim, Italian leather case filled with crisp $100 bills and an array of sleek black cards that could buy anything he desired. In the restroom, Ethan splashed cold water on his face. His heart raced, a strange mixture of curiosity and doubt swirling within him. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this invested in a human interaction. When he returned to the booth, his stomach clenched. His wallet was gone. Sophia stood at another table, chatting with a young couple. Her smile remained steady, and her body language relaxed. Could she have taken it? Ethan's mind raced, imagining scenarios where she might have pocketed the wallet and returned to her duties as if nothing had happened. He slid into the booth, his expression carefully neutral, and waited. Moments later, Sophia approached him with the wallet in her hand. "Sir, I think you left this behind," she said with a gentle smile, placing it on the table. "I didn't want you to lose it." Ethan forced a polite nod. "Thank you," he said, his voice betraying none of the turmoil within him. Relief mingled with disappointment. He had wanted her to fail, to confirm his belief that everyone had a price. Yet, she had proven herself honest. He wasn't ready to let the matter rest. Ethan returned to the diner the following evening, this time with a more deliberate plan. He chose the same booth, and as he ordered a heartier meal, he spoke with Sophia. "You've been working here long?" he asked, his tone casual but calculated. "A little over 2 years," she replied, her smile unwavering. "It's a great place. The customers are friendly, and the work keeps me busy." Her answer was simple, but Ethan sensed more beneath the surface. "Do you enjoy it?" he pressed. Sophia hesitated, her gaze flickering to the window. "It's not easy, but I'm grateful for the job," she admitted. "I'm putting myself through school and helping out at home. My mom hasn't been well, so it's been challenging." She shrugged, her voice light, but Ethan didn't miss the strain in her expression. As she walked away, he felt a pang of guilt. Here was a young woman bearing the weight of her family's struggles, yet she carried herself with optimism and grace. Still, he reminded himself, everyone had a breaking point. Would hers come if the stakes were higher? This time, Ethan left his wallet on the table and excused himself, stepping outside under the pretense of making a phone call. Through the diner's large windows, he watched Sophia clear his table. She paused when she saw the wallet, her expression unreadable. Ethan's pulse quickened. Would her financial burdens push her to take it? Sophia glanced around, then calmly walked to the counter, placing the wallet in a secure spot behind the register. She returned to her duties as if nothing unusual had happened. Ethan re-entered the diner moments later, and Sophia handed him the wallet when she saw him. "You left this again," she said, teasing but kind. "You really shouldn't be so forgetful." Ethan managed a small laugh, masking his growing frustration. How could she remain so honest, so unaffected by the temptation? Was she indeed this principled, or was it all an elaborate act? Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan resolved to return, each time escalating the stakes. He wasn't just testing Sophia's honesty anymore. He was testing his beliefs about human nature. Ethan became a regular at the diner, always choosing the same booth by the window. Each visit brought with it a new test for Sophia. One evening, he slipped a crisp $100 bill under his plate after finishing his meal. Another time, he forgot his designer watch on the table, its gleaming face catching the light. On a particularly bold evening, Ethan tucked a blank check into the napkin holder, the signature already in place, leaving only the amount to be filled. Each test was carefully designed to tempt her, to push her to reveal any trace of greed or opportunism. Sophia, however, remained steadfast. Each time she discovered something Ethan had forgotten, she returned it without hesitation. She never paused to consider keeping it, never hesitated in her actions. It wasn't just honesty, integrity, an innate sense of right and wrong that seemed woven into her character. Ethan watched her closely, studying every interaction, every subtle shift in her demeanor. If she was pretending, she was an incredible actress. But as the days turned into weeks, he realized something unsettling. Sophia wasn't just passing his tests, she was challenging his beliefs. Her unwavering principles forced him to confront the cynicism he had spent years cultivating. One evening, as he lingered over his coffee, Ethan overheard a conversation between Sophia and another waitress. They were standing near the kitchen, their voices just audible over the hum of the diner. "How's your mom doing?" the waitress asked. Sophia sighed, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "Not great. The medical bills are piling up, and I don't know how much longer I can keep up with everything. I might have to take a break from school." She paused before adding, "But I'll figure it out. I always do." Ethan felt a pang of guilt that caught him off guard. Here he was, concocting tests to gauge her honesty, while she was quietly battling challenges that would overwhelm most people. He had assumed that financial desperation would eventually reveal her flaws, but instead, it only highlighted her resilience. When he left the diner that night, Ethan left a stack of $100 bills under his plate and a note that read, "For your family." But when he checked the receipt the next day, he found that Sophia had only taken the amount required to cover his meal, leaving the rest untouched. Her humility was as striking as her honesty, and Ethan couldn't help but feel a growing admiration for her. It wasn't just that she returned the money. It was the dignity she carried herself, even in the face of hardship. Ethan's visits to the diner continued, but his perspective had shifted. He no longer saw Sophia as just a test subject. He saw her as a remarkable person. Her struggles, though unspoken in her daily interactions, were evident in how her shoulders slumped when she thought no one was watching, or in the fatigue that crept into her smile after a long shift. One tranquil evening, as the diner neared closing, Ethan stayed behind to sip his coffee and observe. Sophia moved about the room, wiping down tables and exchanging kind words with the last few customers. When the diner finally emptied, Ethan approached her. "You seem to work many hours," he remarked casually. "Do you ever get a break?" Sophia chuckled, a soft, weary sound. "Not really, but it's fine. My family needs me right now, and this job helps." "What about school?" Ethan asked, feigning curiosity. Sophia hesitated, then admitted, "I've been thinking about taking a break. My mom's health is getting worse, and I'm the only one who can take care of things. It's not ideal, but family comes first." Her words lingered in Ethan's mind long after he left the diner that night. He had spent years amassing wealth, climbing higher and higher. Yet here was someone sacrificing her dreams to support her family. The contrast was stark, and Ethan felt ashamed of his privilege for the first time. He had tested Sophia, doubted her, and even hoped to catch her in a moment of weakness, all while she faced challenges he couldn't imagine. That night, Ethan made a decision. He couldn't continue testing her. It felt cruel in the face of her struggles. Instead, he resolved to help her, but he knew he had to do it in a way that preserved her pride. Sophia was not the kind of person to accept charity, no matter how dire her circumstances. The next evening, Ethan approached Sophia with a proposition. "I'm a businessman," he began, choosing his words carefully, "and I've been looking for someone to assist me, a role that requires integrity, hard work, and dedication. I think you'd be perfect for it." Sophia blinked, clearly surprised. "Me? I don't know anything about business." Ethan smiled. "You don't need to. What you have can't be taught. Honesty, compassion, perseverance. Those are the only qualifications I need." Sophia hesitated, torn between gratitude and doubt. "I don't know. I have my mom to take care of. That's why I'm offering this," Ethan said gently. "It's a better opportunity for you. You'll earn more, work fewer hours, and have the flexibility to support your family and pursue your studies." After a long pause, Sophia finally agreed. "Okay, I'll give it a try." Ethan felt a rare fulfillment as he left the diner that night. For the first time in years, he wasn't just using his wealth to gain something. He was using it to make a difference. Little did he know this decision would transform Sophia's life and his own. Sophia's first day as Ethan's assistant was marked by nervous energy. Her usual confidence seemed to waver as she stepped into Ethan's sprawling office, a space that was a stark contrast to the modest diner she had grown accustomed to. The high ceilings, sleek furniture, and panoramic city views spoke of a life she had only glimpsed from afar. She took a deep breath and reminded herself why she had accepted the offer: her mother's health, her family's future, and the chance to build a better life. Ethan greeted her warmly, sensing her apprehension. "You'll do great," he reassured her. "I'll walk you through everything." Sophia's first tasks were simple: organizing schedules, responding to emails, and preparing documents. But as the days turned into weeks, her responsibilities grew. She took on projects with meticulous attention to detail, consistently exceeding expectations. Ethan was initially skeptical of her abilities and was impressed by her quick learning and natural problem-solving skills. It wasn't just her work ethic that stood out. It was how she treated everyone she encountered, from the janitor to the board members. Sophia brought the same warmth and kindness to the office that she had shown in the diner. Her genuine nature softened the edges of Ethan's otherwise rigid corporate world. Despite her growing confidence, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't fully belong. While organizing Ethan's desk one evening, she stumbled upon a photograph buried under a pile of documents. It was a picture of two men standing side by side, smiling broadly. One was unmistakably Ethan, but the other took her breath away. It was her father. Her hands trembled as she stared at the photograph, memories flooding back. Her father had once been a businessman, but he had left that life behind when she was a child, choosing a more Spartan existence as a mechanic. She had always wondered why he never spoke about his past, and now she was beginning to understand. Sophia approached Ethan with the photograph, her voice shaking. This is my father. How do you know him?" Ethan's expression softened, and he let out a long sigh. "Your father was my closest friend," he admitted. "We started this company together, but we fell out. He was the most principled man I've ever known, but I couldn't see it then. I was too focused on ambition, on winning at all costs." Sophia felt pride and sadness as she listened to Ethan recount his history with her father. "Why didn't you reach out to him?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "By the time I realized my mistakes, it was too late. I heard he had moved on and started a family, and I didn't want to disrupt his life." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. "He always taught me to be honest, to do what's right no matter how hard it is. I guess that's where I get it from." Ethan nodded, his respect for her deepening. "You remind me of him," he said softly. "That's why I offered you this job. I saw in you what I lost in myself." The revelation about Sophia's father marked a turning point in her relationship with Ethan. What had begun as a professional arrangement became something more profound, a bond built on shared values and mutual respect. Sophia's presence continued to influence Ethan in profound ways. He found himself questioning not just his past choices, but also his current priorities. One day, Ethan made an announcement that surprised even himself. "I've decided to start a foundation," he told Sophia during a meeting. "Something that will make a real difference. Healthcare, education, support for people like you who are fighting to make ends meet." Sophia's eyes lit up. "That's an incredible idea," she said. "You could help so many people. I want you to help me run it," Ethan continued. "You understand what it means to struggle, to fight for something bigger than yourself. I can't think of anyone better for the job." Sophia hesitated. "I don't know, Ethan. That's a big responsibility. You've already proven you're capable of so much more than you realize," he replied. "This isn't just about work. It's about creating something meaningful together." Sophia eventually agreed, and the foundation quickly became a cornerstone of Ethan's legacy. She threw herself into the work, managing programs that provided scholarships for underprivileged students, grants for small businesses, and healthcare support for needy families. Every decision she made was guided by the values her father had instilled in her: honesty, compassion, and integrity. Ethan, in turn, found a new sense of purpose. For the first time in years, his wealth felt like a tool for good rather than a measure of his worth. He attended events, met the people whose lives the foundation had touched, and slowly shed the cynicism that had once defined him. Sophia's influence had transformed him, not just as a businessman, but as a person. Their partnership became a beacon of hope for those around them. Together, they proved that honesty and kindness were ideals to aspire to and values that could reshape the world. For Ethan, the test he had once devised to uncover the truth about others had ultimately revealed the truth about himself, that he, too, was capable of change. Months passed, and the foundation flourished under Sophia's leadership and Ethan's guidance. Together, they built something more than a charitable organization, reflecting their shared values and determination to create meaningful change. However, their journey wasn't without challenges. One day, while reviewing applications for the Foundation's scholarship program, Sophia came across a name that felt hauntingly familiar: Carter Enterprises Legal Trust. The applicant described a history of battling unethical corporate practices and seeking assistance to recover lost assets from a wrong business deal. The details matched stories her father had told her as a child, of a betrayal that had left their family financially vulnerable, forcing him to leave his career behind. Sophia froze, her heart pounding. She realized this was linked to the falling out between Ethan and her father. Though Ethan had never delved into specifics, it was clear this incident had profoundly shaped their lives. Summoning her courage, Sophia brought the matter to Ethan's attention. "Ethan," she began hesitantly, "I think we need to discuss something from the past. This name, this case, it's connected to my father, isn't it?" Ethan looked at the document in her hands, his expression clouding with guilt. After a long silence, he spoke. "Yes, Sophia, it is. When your father and I were partners, I made a decision that I thought was just business. But it hurt him in ways I didn't foresee. I've spent years trying to atone for it, but never knowing how to make it right." Sophia's voice trembled. "Why didn't you ever tell me the truth?" "Because I was ashamed," Ethan admitted. "When I hired you, it wasn't just about your integrity. I saw in you the best parts of your father, the parts one had failed to honor. Helping you was my way of trying to make amends." Sophia took a deep breath, her emotions swirling between anger, sadness, and understanding. "I think he would have forgiven you," she said finally. "But forgiveness isn't just about words. It's about actions." Ethan nodded, his resolve hardening. "Then I'll take action. I'll use everything I have to right this wrong. Not just for your father, but for everyone I've hurt." The revelation marked a turning point in Ethan's life. No longer content to quietly atone through philanthropy, he began actively seeking out those he had wronged in the past. With Sophia's help, he identified businesses and individuals who had suffered from decisions he'd made while climbing to the top. Together, they worked to provide restitution through financial support, job opportunities, or rebuilding lost trust. Ethan's efforts extended beyond his past misdeeds. Inspired by Sophia's unyielding determination, he became a vocal advocate for ethical business practices, speaking at conferences and mentoring young entrepreneurs about the importance of integrity. "Success isn't measured by how much you gain," he often said, "but by how much you give back." Sophia, meanwhile, embraced her role as the foundation's director with a renewed sense of purpose. She poured her heart into every initiative, from providing scholarships to underprivileged students to funding healthcare for struggling families. The foundation became a lifeline for countless people, a beacon of hope for those who thought they had been forgotten. Ethan and Sophia's partnership deepened, and their shared mission made a stronger bond than anticipated. Once a man defined by his isolation and mistrust, Ethan found himself leaning on Sophia as a colleague and a confidant. Her unwavering honesty and compassion reminded him of the man he wanted to be, and for the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace. One evening, as they reviewed plans for a new housing initiative, Ethan turned to Sophia. "You've changed my life," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "When I met you, I thought I was testing your character. But in reality, you were testing mine. And you showed me that I could be better." Sophia smiled, her eyes glistening. "You had it in you all along, Ethan. You just needed someone to remind you." As the foundation grew, so did their shared vision for the future. They didn't just want to help people. They wanted to inspire others to do the same. Ethan committed a significant portion of his wealth to ensure the foundation's long-term success, while Sophia began training a new generation of leaders to carry on their work. Ethan and Sophia's work began to ripple beyond their immediate efforts. The foundation became a force of change, touching thousands of lives nationwide. They launched programs that provided housing for homeless families, scholarships for underprivileged youth, and healthcare access for those in desperate need. Every initiative was guided by a core principle, empowering people to reclaim their dignity. Ethan, who had once been a master of controlling profits and negotiations, now found himself humbled by the stories of those he helped. One particular encounter stayed with him, a single mother who approached him at a charity event, clutching her daughter's hand. "Mr. Carter," she began, her voice trembling. "Because of your foundation, my daughter got the surgery she needed. I thought I was going to lose her, but now she's healthy, and she's going to school. I'll never forget what you've done for us." Ethan's throat tightened as he crouched to meet the little girl's eyes. She handed him a drawing she had made, a simple picture of a house with the words "Thank you, Mr. Carter" written in bold, uneven letters. It was a moment that reminded Ethan of the true wealth he had gained, not from his businesses but from the lives he had touched. Sophia, too, found fulfillment beyond what she had ever imagined. Her position as director allowed her to implement ideas she had once thought impossible. One of her proudest achievements was the Pathway Scholarship Program, which offered full tuition for students like herself, young people burdened by responsibilities and financial hardship. She made it a point to meet the recipients personally, listening to their stories and cheering them on as they pursued their dreams. Through their work, Ethan and Sophia began to see the changes in each other. Once driven by skepticism and control, Ethan had become compassionate and open-hearted. His hardened demeanor softened as he connected with the people his foundation helped, discovering a satisfaction far surpassing any business success. Sophia, who had once doubted her ability to thrive beyond the diner, grew into a confident leader. Her determination inspired not only Ethan, but also the countless people she worked with every day. Ethan's transformation became evident to those around him as the foundation flourished. His board members, once accustomed to his sharp, calculating ways, were taken aback by his newfound humility. At one meeting, he announced plans to restructure his corporation, funneling a significant portion of its profits into philanthropic efforts. "We've done well for ourselves," Ethan said, addressing the room. "But it's time to do more than just make money. It's time to make a difference." Some resisted the idea, fearing profit loss, but Ethan remained steadfast. With Sophia's encouragement, he forged ahead, determined to leave behind a legacy defined by compassion rather than wealth. As Ethan and Sophia worked side by side, their bond deepened unexpectedly. What had started as a professional relationship evolved into a profound friendship rooted in trust and shared purpose. Ethan often found himself seeking Sophia's advice, not only on foundation matters but also on personal decisions. Her grounded perspective became a guiding force in his life. One evening, after a particularly successful charity gala, Ethan and Sophia lingered in his office, reflecting on how far they had come. The room was quiet, illuminated only by the soft glow of city lights through the massive windows. "We've done something incredible, haven't we?" Sophia said, her voice filled with quiet pride. Ethan nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "We have. But it's not just about the foundation. You've shown me a better way to live, Sophia. I used to think money was the only thing that mattered, but you proved me wrong. It's about people, connections, and making the world a little better than we found it." Sophia smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "You've changed too, Ethan. The man who walked into that diner months ago is nothing like the man sitting here now." Ethan leaned back in his chair, a rare smile on his lips. "That's because of you. You challenged me in ways I didn't think were possible. You made me want to be better." Their conversation marked a turning point in their relationship. Over time, they began to rely on each other as colleagues and as equals, partners in a journey reshaping their lives. Sophia's optimism balanced Ethan's pragmatism, while his experience gave her the confidence to pursue ideas that once seemed impossible. Eventually, Ethan asked Sophia to take on an even more significant role within the foundation. "I want you to lead the entire organization," he said one afternoon, sliding a folder across the table. "You've built this from the ground up. It's yours as much as it is mine." Sophia hesitated. "Ethan, this is your vision. I can't take that away from you." "You're not taking it away," he replied gently. "You're carrying it forward. I trust you, Sophia, more than anyone else." With tears in her eyes, Sophia accepted the role, vowing to continue their mission with the same integrity that had brought them together. Ethan, for his part, began stepping back from the day-to-day operations, focusing instead on mentoring young leaders and finding new ways to expand their impact. As the foundation continued to grow, so did their connection. Though they never explicitly spoke about the tests Ethan had once subjected Sophia to, their unspoken understanding strengthened their bond. They knew those early moments in the diner had set the foundation for everything they had built together. The following years were marked by profound transformation, not only for Ethan and Sophia, but for everyone touched by their foundation's work. Their shared vision blossomed into a network of programs that spanned the country, addressing society's most pressing needs: education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. One of their most celebrated initiatives was the Second Chance Project, designed to provide job training and opportunities to individuals who had fallen through society's cracks: veterans, single parents, and young people struggling to find their footing. Ethan personally attended the program's first graduation ceremony, standing before a crowd of tearful participants and their families. "I once believed the world was full of takers," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But people like Sophia reminded me that integrity still exists and is worth fighting for. I built my success out of walls that shut others out. But together, we can build something greater, a legacy that includes everyone." The crowd erupted into applause, and Ethan felt a sense of belonging for the first time in decades. His words weren't just for them, but for himself, too. He had finally torn down the walls he had so carefully built, allowing the light of purpose to fill the spaces where cynicism and loneliness once resided. Sophia stood beside him, proud and beaming. Watching the transformation unfold over the years had been just as meaningful for her. She had once been the struggling waitress in a small diner, weighed down by financial burdens and personal loss. Now, she was a leader, a woman others looked to for hope and inspiration. She had never imagined herself capable of building something so grand, but Ethan's belief in her and herself had shown her what was possible. Despite the foundation's success, Sophia remained grounded. She continued to visit the communities they served, listening to their needs and sharing stories of her journey. It was her way of giving back, not just financially but emotionally, proving that integrity, kindness, and selflessness could ripple outward to create lasting change. Ethan, too, found himself spending less time behind his executive desk and more time among the people his wealth was helping. He visited schools, toured hospitals funded by the foundation, and quietly wrote checks to individuals who reminded him of Sophia. Hardworking, honest people fighting to improve their lives. One evening, after a long day visiting a newly built shelter, Ethan and Sophia sat together in a quiet park, the setting sun casting long shadows across the ground. Ethan stared at the horizon, his voice thoughtful. "Do you ever think about how this started?" he asked softly. Sophia smiled. "How could I forget? You left a wallet on my table, hoping I'd take it." Ethan let out a soft laugh. "And here we are, building a future I didn't think was possible. I thought I was testing you back then, but the truth is, I was testing myself. I didn't realize how empty my life had become until I met someone who showed me the value of integrity." Sophia turned to him. "And you reminded me that even the hardest moments in life can lead to something beautiful if we're willing to embrace them." Ethan nodded, his gaze distant but content. "This, what we're building, is worth more than anything I've ever owned." Years passed, and the foundation's reach extended far beyond what Ethan or Sophia had ever dreamed. Hospitals, schools, and scholarships carried their names, but the work was never about recognition. It was about creating opportunities for those who needed them most. Now, in the later years of his life, Ethan has found a peace that once seemed unattainable. The once cynical businessman had become a beacon of generosity and wisdom, admired not for his wealth, but for how he had used it. He had discovered that the greatest return on his investments was not financial but human, the lives he had touched and the hope he had restored. Sophia remained at the heart of it all, her steady light guiding the foundation forward. Under her leadership, they launched a global initiative to provide education and healthcare to underserved communities. It was a project she had dreamed of for years, and Ethan supported it fully, proud to see her vision come to life. Ethan handed Sophia a sealed envelope as they prepared for the Foundation's annual gala one crisp autumn morning. "Open it after the event," he said with a knowing smile. The gala was a grand celebration of their work, filled with people whose lives had been forever changed by the Foundation's efforts. Former scholarship recipients, now doctors, teachers, and leaders, stood on stage in their communities. Families shared stories of loved ones who had received life-saving care thanks to the Foundation's hospitals. The atmosphere was one of hope, gratitude, and joy. After the event, Sophia sat alone in her office and opened the envelope Ethan had given her. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Sophia, you once told me that integrity is about doing what's right, even when no one is watching. You taught me that lesson better than anyone ever could. Because of you, I learned to trust again, not just in people but also. I've made arrangements for the Foundation to carry your name. It's your vision, your values, and your heart that made this all possible. You were never just my assistant, the partner I didn't know I needed. This legacy is yours as much as it is mine. Thank you for saving me from a life I didn't realize was empty." Ethan. Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she read the letter. It wasn't the gesture that moved her, but the realization of how far they had both come. Ethan had gone from a man who distrusted the world to someone who dedicated his life to serving it. And she, a simple waitress burdened by her struggles, had grown into a leader who helped change countless lives. Years later, long after Ethan had passed, the Foundation continued to thrive under Sophia's guidance. Children played in schools that bore her name, patients received care in hospitals funded by the Foundation, and families found new hope through their initiatives. Sophia often visited the diner where her story with Ethan began. She would sit in the same booth, looking at the world beyond the window and smiling. It was a reminder of the life-changing power of small moments, the honesty of a waitress, the curiosity of a man who had everything, and the shared belief that kindness and integrity could change the world. On the Foundation's 20th anniversary, Sophia stood before a crowd of supporters and recipients, her voice steady and full of gratitude. "This legacy isn't about one person," she said. "It's about all of us. It's about what happens when we believe in honesty, kindness, and each other. True wealth isn't measured by what we have, but by what we give." As the crowd erupted into applause, Sophia looked toward the heavens and whispered, "Thank you, Ethan." In the end, Ethan's test of honesty had revealed far more than he ever expected, not just about Sophia, but about himself, and about the boundless potential of a single act of integrity to reshape lives and create a legacy that would endure for generations.